For those of you who don't know, let me introduce myself. I am the Asian sensation Michael King, founder of King Enterprises, principal backer of World Elite, sponsor for Vietnam Pro Wrestling, and Vietnam's greatest export. And you people are all very smart because you're watching Scott Larson's Hashtag Truth. Peace.
Watch it all fall down around you now. Was it ever really worth it? Having your kingdom crumble to the ground because you never had the courage. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashtag Truth. Tonight we have the one, the only, Mark James, the Brute. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing well, Scott. How are you tonight?
I am doing great. We haven't been on for 2 seconds, and already, hey yo, from Luke Childers.
Hey,
He wants to know. He'll ask the first question just like I would. How long have you been in wrestling, sir?
I started in September of 2000. Really, really long time ago. So most of these kids that are doing this nowadays weren't even alive.
Old school. I like that, man. Old school.
Yeah. It's been a really fun journey, man. I started out like Eastern North Carolina in Greenville area over with guys named Vinny Vane and Vax who aren't really well known and really good for basic type stuff. But most of my stuff I had to learn on the road. It was one of those, you get in the business and you get your foot in the door, and then you got to figure it out on the job. And so I made sure to.
So you didn't have anybody. You didn't go to any like regular training. You just went in and said, "Hey, I'm here. I want to be a wrestler. Beat me up until I figure it out."
No, not exactly. Vinny and Vax, they had a school named V3 Training. It was just
Okay.
on the eastern side of the state, and they didn't last very long. They only had a couple guys that really trained under and trained with them. But again, it's there's levels to wrestling, and where they were in the business was not somewhere I was going to be able to get to another level without finding more mentors, at least throughout my time.
They were a stepping stone. They were a start to get you started.
Which is exactly what a training school should be anyway. Like
Right.
it's a way to get your foot in the door, and it's some guys that can introduce you to some people in the business. And I was lucky enough to be able to find my way throughout time, but it took a lot longer than it does for somebody getting into the business now.
I got you.
So it was a little bit different road, but we still all got to the same place. So that's good.
Without a doubt. Luke wants to know: have you had any other jobs in wrestling other than just wrestling itself?
I've done everything. I've promoted. I've run production. I do agent and producing now for a few different organizations. I help out with Firestar Pro and Hit Club Pro and Let Wrestling Live. Help out with those just in the back, doing some agent work and things like that. Yeah, man, I've literally done it all. Camera work. I've done live streaming. Back with Power Pro Wrestling, we were literally the first company in North Carolina to live stream shows. We were doing it on Ustream back then. This was like 2009, 2010 time frame. So yeah, running that and doing production, switching cameras, things like that. So I've literally done it all in the business, and it's been a ton of fun. I've learned so much in my life in the business, and now being that again 23 years in. And I stopped for a while and just recently came back like about a year ago. So that's why you're not finding a lot of stuff right now.
I got you. We're going to talk about that too in a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, it's been a really cool journey. So I've been able to again work with everybody I've watched on TV and everybody I watched growing up, and then being able to work with a lot of these younger guys who some of them have watched me as they were growing up, which is really weird to hear.
Right.
By the way. So I feel bad for all the guys, the old school guys that I said that to back in the day. It was like, man, I've watched you since I was a kid. Because man, that's really awkward.
And one of the things that you said, like, you learn to do this, that, and you listed about 10 things. That's the
Mm.
way you stay relevant in wrestling. I mean, a promoter, I mean, if you walk up to a promoter and the promoter's like, man, I would love to get this show and do this and that. And you walk up and say, hey, I know how to video. All I need is this,
Mhm.
and this. Oh my goodness. Okay. How much? A good promoter would say, how much would you charge me? Let's do this. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Now there is the promoters out there. We all know those two that'll, hey, can you do it for free? Can you show me what's up? And but yeah, but doing all those different things. And a buddy and Luke also wants to know, have you ever ring announced?
Yeah. I bring announced at a few different places. God, what's the name of Lightning's organization? Mostly, if I've ever ring announced, it's been a place that, like, I did it at Ring Wars Carolina when I first moved to Fayetteville, because I was, just got there, was just getting into business, and you do whatever you can do to get your foot in the door. But I did it there for literally like one show, maybe two shows, and that was it. And then, like, everybody knew I was a wrestler. I just started working. We worked in 2.5. The only other times I've done it is when I was like injured. For a while, I did some shows down in Wilmington where I was a ring announcer because I was injured. And, you just try and stay around the business and you wherever you can to make the show better.
There you go.
Yeah.
William D. Norris said, yo, Brute, what's up?
What's up, man?
He said, Brute is so good, was glad to see you come back.
Thank you.
And he also said he's a Ring Wars alumni.
Yeah, man. It was a great area back then, and again, this was 2005, 2006, 2007, maybe. It was a really long time ago. So a lot of this was as I was just really getting started into my career and just learning about the business. And again, I moved a lot, so it was harder to stay in with one group of people. And then you notice is the more you moved around back then, now everybody travels, right? So, but in the 2000s when we were doing this, everybody just kind of was local, unless you were like a name that was actually traveling or a guy that was just running roads all the time. So you would see the cliques, and you do now too. You see the cliques on like the west side of the state, the east side of the state, and how the wrestling differs. The east side's a lot more old school, a lot more story driven. Things like that. West side of the states, like matches, high speed stuff, like a lot of newer version of wrestling, strong style, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. And the more you travel around, you see those variances and how you have to work with the crowds. But it makes you a better wrestler in the long run, honestly.
Right. I mean, with all that traveling and things like that, and like you said at the beginning, you didn't travel a lot. You stayed with, there might have been 2 or 3 shows in your, immediate area that you stuck to, and storylines were there, and you probably had rivalries and things going on. But once you wrestled everybody for a little while, then, no matter what, you're going to want to, travel outward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, my biggest thing is, so wrestling, as much as I've always loved doing this, I've always had to use it as more of a hobby type thing. It wasn't that I didn't want to go somewhere, but I've always had a family. I've always worked a full-time job. At that point in my life, I was running restaurants. I was a district manager for a wings restaurant that I had multiple stores that I had to manage, and I was always on the road working with that. So, when you're working 118 hours a week, you don't have a lot of time to wrestle.
Right. Oh my good. I guess not.
Yeah. And then I ended up hurting my back, and that threw me into a whole thing. And it caused like 8 months. I was walking with a cane.
Wow.
And had to, I've got 2 bulging discs in my back and sciatica, and like it just killed me one day. I was literally leaving the restaurant. I went and opened the door, my right leg completely gave out. Saw this flash of light in front of my face, and I couldn't walk. It was the worst thing. Yeah, and I wrestled Ooga Booga like the Saturday before that. Whatever it was. But I wrestled him the Saturday before that, and I screwed my back up in that match doing a leg drop off the top rope to him. And it was the dumbest thing. I just landed awkward, and my back just jarred, and that was it.
I'm surprised jumping from that height and coming down flat like that. I'm surprised you didn't do something to your tailbone.
Yeah,
that would seem like the you landing flat like that with your legs. I understand how to fall, but still, that tailbone's unprotected. You only got a little bit of meat, protecting that tailbone.
Oh yeah, yeah. And well, we're idiots, Scott. I don't know if you knew this. Wrestlers are stupid, and we like doing things that hurt ourselves for no reason whatsoever. Try not to curse on here. I don't know your language barrier.
Feel free. Okay. We do have children watching, as you can see, Luke and others. But
yeah, of course.
I won't ever tell anybody not to speak the way they want to speak, because I wouldn't want them to do that to me. So
sure, I'm worried about something slipping out, man. I say the F word a lot, and so I don't want anything to slip out on the show if that's not your thing. So.
I don't cuss personally. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't cuss. Very seldom do I ever, but
sure.
Everybody gets mad and lets a few slip every once in a while. I mean, I'm human.
Oh man, I'm from New Jersey originally, so and I'm Italian. Part of my background. So it's just an extra adjective.
I could tell because you're speaking with your hands.
Yeah, it's just an extra adjective for us. It's never meant personally most times. Right. Like I just curse a lot. So
I got you. Well, I mean, I've only been talking to you for a little over 12 minutes, and already I've learned that you're not only a wrestler, but 10 different jobs in the wrestling business. You've ran restaurants. I mean, for the most part, you better have people skills if you're doing all that. So, I mean, even if you cussed, you still know how to react around people and know what to say and what not to say. I mean, you'd have to with all them jobs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Your customer service background is ridiculous. And I've run the Gold's Gym for like 6 years too, right in Greensboro, North Carolina, and Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So I've been in business management and like corporate management for a really long time. And now I just run a bread route, which is great. I don't have to deal with anybody. I just put headphones in, listen to music all day, and put bread on shelves. Really happy with that.
William Norris said that is so true. There are little spots all around that seem to stick with certain styles. That is very true. Also depends on who trained you. I noticed if you're with RWC or with Q and Lou, you were trained in a slower, more methodical wrestler. Okay. And Missy wants to know what areas do you wrestle in right now?
Great ads, William. Ring Wars back then was a little bit slower. I guess it's more old school style. You're with right. Eddie and Eddie Brown and Tony James or Hang Time. So they're very much more of an old school style. And again, out west, it's a little more city based and newer wrestling based. So you'll have that, but still with AML, they've got a old school style there. They're not 100 miles an hour. Right. PWX was a little more 100 miles an hour and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it does depend on where you're from and where you're at. I like the old school style a little more than most, I guess, obviously being in it so long. And it also doesn't help that I'm like 43 and, I don't want to die while I'm running around like crazy in the ring. So, I try not to run too much.
So you don't do any of those jumping off the highest part of the building through three tables into the ring. And
no, I leave that to Malachi Jeffers and the ugly ducklings and those guys. They're crazy. But as far as where I wrestle around here, Firestar Pro Wrestling right in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm there. I'll be there on the 11th. I've got shows tomorrow. I'm defending my
we're hitting it quick, so let me go ahead. Here's tomorrow.
Oh yeah, defending my Extreme Shock Wrestling championship against Lee Valiant really old rival of mine. We've wrestled God, way too many times, and that should be a lot of fun. And I love Leah. He's a guy that I can just get in there and we beat the crap out of each other for 15 minutes, and we're
Right.
both happy.
I always ask wrestlers that. Is there that one guy or multiple guys that you just feel so comfortable with when you show up at a show and they say, okay, the whoever's booking says, hey, you're wrestling this guy, no matter win or lose, you're wrestling this guy. You don't even have to walk up anymore sometimes. You just know what he's gonna do. He knows what you're gonna do, and you can call it out there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. So I was trained to call it all out there anyway. So
Yes.
I'm not like, I'm very, yeah, I'm trying to get used to
Old
this
school
new
like
style.
that. I love that.
Sure. So like I came up with the Dawsons and like Casey McKnight and all those guys, and like we all came up in that Fable area, down there at Ring Wars, and they were out in Wilmington, and I was up, I came from Greenville, but I moved down to Fable. My issue was I moved around a lot, like I said, with my businesses. Right. So I had to stay local a lot. So I'd fall in with local feds and try and get booked there. But all that did was that end up helping me network, and I was able to move out further from there. So, and be able to travel more. What the hell was I saying? Sorry.
You were telling us where you were wrestling. You told us about Extreme Shock. You were going into Fire Pro. So I'll go ahead.
Oh yeah. Got it. So yeah, Firestar Pro Wrestling. I'll be there on the 11th. I'm tagging up with Alex Evans. We're part of the showcase, and we're facing Grant, who's insanely good for as young as he is, and Cam. Cam
Cano.
Yeah. I don't really know much about him. He's young. I think this is his first match. So, but he's a beast. I know he's friggin' huge. And
he looks big.
Yeah, he's gonna try and like Goldberg us, and I'm not really into that. I'm just gonna knee him in the face and hopefully not get speared.
I love that. I'm just gonna hit him in the face. Just.
Well, that's my whole thing, man. That's all I do. I'm not a wrestler, Scott. I don't know what you may have heard about me.
Hey, I don't know. I know little to nothing about you, and this is what's making me just so overjoyed, because you sound to me like a Memphis style wrestler. I call him a Memphis style wrestler. Very rarely are you going to go second or third rope. You're going to ground and pound. You're going to do moves from the floor. You're going to stretch people. You're going to, that's my style of wrestling. If two wrestlers get in there and do that, I am, don't get me wrong. I like the, action off the top rope every now and then. And,
sure.
The speedsters, the cruiserweights, as people would call them. But my style is, get two big guys in there and let's just pound it out. Let's do some wrestling moves. And if there's blood, there's blood. If there ain't, you're going to wish there was it by the end of it,
Yeah, man. We all say this. This isn't ballet, even though it's kind of ballet at times. But it's really not. Like the amount of people that I have to talk to on a daily basis that find out that I'm a wrestler, and they're like, "Oh, it's that fake stuff." I'm like, I hate it when people say that. And I'm not in that. Oh, get in the ring with me. I'll show you how fake it is, because that's dumb. Because nobody's going to do that.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, I try and explain to them. First of all, the money I make in it is very real. So I don't really care what you think in that respect. It goes in my bank account just fine. But
that's right.
On top of that, the moves, there's no way to fake falling from 6-7 feet up in the air, and there's no way to fake falling from, 10, 11, 12 feet up in the air when you're doing it off cages and ladders and shit like that. So, sorry again. But like, you can't call it fake. You just can't. Like,
I never have, and I never will.
Sure. Like it's an impossibility to call it that and be real about it. Now you can joke, I get the jokes and everything, and it's just a stigma that we have to live with. But those same people will come to that show and be on the edge of their seat off of that fake fight that's going on in the ring, and be losing their minds with the right guys in there too. So
Well, what's funny about that is, and I tell people this too, you know, I'm one of those that tell them, hey, get in the ring and take a bump. I am. I'm sorry. I just am. You know, if you say it's fake, hey, I got a wrestling friend. If you want to, you know, if you want to take a body slam from him, he's 400 something pounds. If you want to take a bomb from him or something, or any kind of move, go right ahead. And after that, you tell me how fake it is. But you know,
They're not.
it's
They're not going to do that though.
right.
Nobody's going to just jump in the ring and do that kind of stuff.
But people don't understand that some of the training that wrestlers take is actual training that police officers use. Some of the holds you guys do, like, you know, when you bring the arm around the back, a police officer is trained to do that to keep the person, you know, in front of them. And you know, some of it's real. I mean, if you get, I mean, you know, when you're wrenching on an arm 15 times, everybody knows an arm doesn't spin like that. You're, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if you get them in a wrist lock and you bend that wrist, it hurts. It
All
hurts
right,
if you bend it far enough.
Well, absolutely, and it goes back honestly, because of I'm a Marine as well. So when I was in the Marine Corps, we learned a lot of line training stuff and hand-to-hand combat things, and it's all very real. All the submission holds, the moves that we do, everything in the ring is very legit. I promise you.
Right.
Well, most everything, like
Right.
the actual holds themselves, the submission moves.
Right.
The difference is literally a matter of inches, Scott. Like I don't want to give away the business here, but like literally it's a matter of inches. It's a placement of your foot in a certain area compared to another, you know, or an angle that your arm is in compared to where it could be in. And that's really the way I was taught, was a shoot style, because you had to learn how to sell it all,
Right.
you know. And like when I got in, it was very we just focused on selling, because that's really all that freaking matters. You know, the moves are great, but the selling is the story. That's what draws people.
I'll tell you what drives me nuts in any match, that if I'm at a wrestling show or anywhere else, especially an indie show, if I'm there and I see them do a move and then 3 seconds later they're up like nothing happened, like take a DDT or take a power slam, and then, you know, 3 seconds later they're up flying around the ring, and what? You didn't sell for 3 minutes, or somebody's pounding on somebody's leg for 3 minutes in a match, you know, just wearing out the leg, and then they're just up and standing around and walking around on that leg and not showing. I'm like, sorry. It just, you know, you got to have realism in it too. You got to sell. You got to, you know, if somebody's working on the leg, you got to, you know, hit the leg, make, you know, try to get the blood circulating, do what you got to do to sell that part, man. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And we were going over this in training at Firestar yesterday. Cozone's an outstanding trainer.
Right.
His talent is literally all over the state now, and now some of them are all over the country. The guys that he's put into business, and it's incredible to me, because Cozone and I didn't get along at all when I first met him. So to see, and I didn't really think highly of his abilities and things like that. And when I heard he was up for wrestling school, I was like, there's no way this is going to work out. And I was absolutely wrong, and I love that I was absolutely wrong. So excuse me. But
are you good?
We were up there yesterday doing some stuff and working with a lot of the trainees up there, and that was our main focus. Was first off, calling it on the fly in the ring, which is really cool. Love to see wrestling schools teaching that.
Yes.
Working specific styles, so working as a heel, calling it on the fly, and we were working on selling, and the biggest thing again is that emotion. It's got to register. And you have to give people time to let it sink in. Everybody wants to rush to that next move. And even when they're calling it in the ring, because we saw it all day yesterday, and that's why all the old school guys are like, you gotta slow down, kid. Slow down. We're not, like, if you think you're going too slow, slow down. Harley Race said that all the time back in the day. I was at a Harley seminar, and literally he said that every single match. That was just his mantra for the day. Slow down, everybody. And I have that issue too, because you don't want that dead spot. You'll know the guys that feel really comfortable in their work when they're able to just stand there and kind of take it in,
Right.
when they're willing to just take that, and not the planned, walk around babyface fire up shit. I'm
Right.
talking about like when a guy's working and you can tell he's about to do something and the crowd's reacting and he just stops and takes it in for a second and he understands that, all right, we got him, and
Right.
and sometimes that we got him moment just completely changes the rest of the match.
Right.
Because now you can just take your time. Now you can do everything you want to just, you're like a puppet master. at that point.
Exactly.
So-
And that's what and to be honest with you, I'm saying this as a true blue wrestling fan. I've never worked in the business. I've got a podcast. I've talked to hundreds of wrestlers, talked to hundreds of promoters, hundreds of trainers, but I've never been in the ring. But if you're watching as a fan, that moment too. That moment too, because you're waiting on, a moment to relate to. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And when you got people just flying around the ring, okay, this is great, this is awesome, but at the end of it, you're expecting the next match to do what that match did and worse. And if you and another, grounded pounder come in, they're going to sit there and be disappointed. And some people don't understand that about wrestling. It's okay to have, this match and that match, but tell a story, make it make sense. The whole match. Don't just, tell a story for a little while, then go into a bunch of spots and fly around and do whatever. Like you said, take your time, slow it down. Make it, if you're getting beat on, if you're the, good guy getting beat on, and you ain't got to make the comeback right away.
Oh yeah. And all that comes in time though.
Right.
I said this a ton yesterday too. I was like, a lot of these things come with reps. You have to be in the ring more. You have to take the advantage to work with guys that know more than you as much as possible.
Right.
And with doing that, and again, being out traveling in different areas, I didn't really start learning until I got about 7 or 8 years into business. And I got to
some people think they know it all 2-3 years into it.
Oh, I was absolutely one of those guys. I promise you.
There you go. There you go.
And I was wrong. And I've noticed now at the end of my career, you realize all the dumb things you did at the beginning of your career, right? And you go back and you apologize to a lot of people, and you tell them how much you appreciate what they did for you back then and how they tried to protect you at times. And sometimes you don't notice that they're trying to look out for the best interest of you in there, because all your goal is getting somewhere, right?
Right.
So when I first got in the business, I wasn't in a relationship at the time, and I just met what was soon to be my first wife.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so I was ready to go. And this was like high ECW time, Attitude Era, like everything was going great. And then WCW folded like a year after I got into business. WCW folded, which was cool because then I got to work with guys like Conan and Norman Smiley and like all the WCW guys started coming around the area when I was working with a company called the UWC out in the Greenville, Kinston area.
Right.
So you learn more that way, and you continue to travel, and you get in the ring with guys like Norman Smiley, and that's a whole different type of match,
Right.
And everybody may know him, the Screaming Norman Smiley stuff. That dude's a shooter. I promise you.
Right.
He will hook you in a heartbeat. You won't know what happened. And he did. It was great. Honestly, it was
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it.
No,
I ramble a lot, so
you're good. You're good. I interrupt a lot, and I apologize. Everybody knows that when they come on the show, I interrupt a lot, and I apologize to everybody.
Yeah, you're fine.
Because I get a question, I get questions better. I jot down a few, but I get questions better when the person's talking and it just comes to me. And
Sure.
you were name dropping, of course, telling your story, telling
Yeah, I got
How
a basket
long-
over here for those. I'm
No,
gonna pick them back up and put them in my pocket.
but how long did it take you to realize? And trust me, I've talked to many wrestlers, and sometimes it takes, sometimes they get it right away. Sometimes it takes them 2, 3 years. Sometimes, how long did it take you to realize to keep this shut, keep this open, and sit by as many veterans as you can, and just soak it in when they give you information? Just ask questions and soak it in.
I was like that from day one.
Okay.
But the reason why I was like that from day one is I've got a naturally like quiet demeanor when I'm in new places. I like to observe people, so I'll just sit and listen.
Me and you are just the opposite. I'm loud everywhere I go. So
No, I try not to be. Well, I learned at a young age. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1". I was formerly 350 pounds. I'm at like 245 now. But I'm a pretty large guy. So in efforts to not be intimidating to everyone around me, I've always tried to make myself smaller in public places.
okay.
And you're quiet and you back down into a corner because loud big guys scare the shit out of people. And I love that because I'm a loud big guy when I'm at shows, and it works. It's great to be a heel and be able to do that. So I mean that's an advantage that I have in those situations. Plus I look like a douchebag. So there's plenty of reasons to hate me.
Well, you got that shirt on, you got the beard on. You look like a lumberjack to me. You look like you'd come out and just, start swinging an axe at somebody,
Yeah, I've thought about it. Hold on, my dog's going crazy. Will you
you're
stop,
good.
dude?
You're good.
So he tries to like lay in.
He wants to start on hashtag truth too. Now, come on.
You gonna be on the show? Yeah. Well, I wear all this out. All right. So I used to be like Johnny Boots and Tights and all that stuff, right? So we had our trunks, and when Jimmy Parker and I were tagging together, we ran as the Brutes for about 3 years, and we were all over the East Coast. We worked here up to Pennsylvania and into out in Ohio at the time. We were all over, and it was a blast.
Now I will tell you guys, if you go on YouTube, there are some matches as him being the Brutes. There are some matches on there, so go check them out.
Sure, and there's a lot of old matches with me as Mark James. None of them are any good. Don't waste your time. So if you need a good night's sleep, check them out. They'll put you right out. Don't worry about it. We got you covered over here. Best of Mark James tape. It's God tape. How old am I? Holy shit. I'm old.
Hey
Yes,
man, I said it the other day. I was looking right at my DVD player, and I told my daughter, "Hey, go get that tape for my VHS player." She's like, "What? Oh crap, CD for the CD player." I was like,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're old.
Kids don't even know. I got a 9-year-old here. I'm learning all this new stuff from every day,
Right.
and I try to keep up with all the trends because everybody I wrestle now is literally a quarter of my age. Like you said, you pulled up the match with Dash and I, which was really just me trying to just putting the kid over big,
right?
As much as I could in that. But yeah, like he's 15. The kid's 15. He's very small, and I didn't want to hurt him, honestly.
Okay.
During the match, so we went into that. But either way, everybody I wrestle now is literally half my age, and it's really awkward to be in there with these kids because they're
and I'm pretty sure a lot of them are smaller and high flying.
Yeah, some of them
are athletic. I'll say athletic, not high flying. Athletic.
Yeah, a lot of athletic. And Grant, God, I wish, but Grant that I'm wrestling here in like a week. He's more of a ground-based guy. Alex Evans, the guy I tag with sometimes, he's more of a ground-based guy. So there's a few out there, but yeah, everybody wants to be a cruiserweight, and it's the gift style of wrestling. Like you want to create that one spot that somebody's gonna make a gif of, and they'll share it all over the place, and it'll go viral, and hopefully you'll get a sponsor. And I get
they want their 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just not that kind of wrestler. I want to
Right.
create moments. I don't care about moves. You
I
know.
got you.
And like I've wrestled Tim Tim.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, however you guys know. But I wrestled him a few weeks ago. Well, like a month or so ago. And first time we went singles. I've known him since he got into business. Like we rode together. He's a great kid. Super talented. So, but we got in there to wrestle, and literally I walked up to him and I was like, all right, I've got 2 ideas for this whole match, and this is it. And I need to create this moment, and we need to create this moment. And if we do both of those right, then the match is going to be awesome, and I don't care what else we do. And that was it.
This moment, here's the end. Let's go do it.
Yeah. And because you're looking for an emotional some kind of emotional cue from the crowd. And if you do your match correctly and you build it the right way, you're going to get those emotional cues from the crowd. And it's not the big pops when you do some crazy ass spot. I mean, obviously that's a climax of your arc in a match and the storytelling that you're doing throughout the match. But and you want those in there. But the easiest way I could say it is I was at a show years ago, however many, I don't know. But I was at a show there, and these 2 guys went in there, and it was the shits. It was horrible. And they ended the match with a Canadian destroyer off. This was when Petey Williams first really got out there and did his destroyer, and everybody in the world copied it.
Right.
So these kids, they did a destroyer off the top rope. Crowd went nuts, obviously, because you did a friggin' destroyer off the top rope, and it's a new move. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the crowd went nuts for it. But the match was a drizzling shit, like completely. Right? And this
The
guy
only
comes
thing
up to me.
anybody's going to remember about that match is that move, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But that's the only thing they cared about. You know what I mean? And that's where a lot of wrestlers are nowadays. They care about, like, well, I gotta hit this move this way, and I gotta hit this move this way, because that's what people are gonna remember. And that's true for a little bit. They're gonna remember that move. But if you made them feel a certain way, like if you brought them into your match, like really, and made them emotionally like invested,
right?
Excuse me. They're gonna remember you the rest of their lives.
Right.
Exactly. This is stuff that they never forget. They'll follow you. They're gonna be attached to your work. They're guys like White Mike have it. That dude's got it in the palm of his hand.
Right.
It's insanity. You know what I mean? His charisma is off the charts. And he just gets it. He knows how to control that crowd. Guys like the Dawsons, guys like FTR that are doing amazing things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
FTR is one of the greatest. I love their gimmick that they were saying when they come in there. What was it? Fists, not flips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. I was like, man, that is too good right there. They're telling you right here, don't worry about the flips, man. We're gonna hit you right in the face. I love it.
Funny. I don't know if they got this from them, but Walter Eaton and Roy, God, what the hell is Roy's last? I can't remember anybody's name. But out at CWF Mid Atlantic, they actually used that no flips, just fists before FTR used it. And I'm not saying they took it from them or anything like that. Like, please don't get,
I've seen gimmick lines like that come and go where multiple people have used the same gimmick lines. It's something. I mean, let's be honest, for people, veterans like yourself and others who've been in the business 20, 30 years, there's not much you haven't seen. I mean, or heard.
Yeah. And
every once in a while you might get surprised, but
Sure. And it all gets rehashed over and over again, and history repeats itself, and life goes on. But wrestling is the cool area that you can reinvent that kind of stuff, and you can figure out new ways to present it to people, to where oh man, I've seen this before, and the nostalgia feel is there, but it's still a new thing, right? So,
Exactly.
for example, I was down, I was at Wilmington at UPWA. I wrestled Steven Strick that night, but that didn't matter. We had a spot at the end of the show where I was turning heel, and this was just a few weeks ago, right? So I'm turning heel. Jake Logan against Victor Andrews. They're in a cage match. Gets down to the end of the match. They're fighting. Jake has a guy coming to help him. Victor overcomes the odds and he's crawling to the door. I come out there to help him, right? Everybody's seen this a million times, right? They've seen the guy turn on somebody. They've seen how it happens and things like that. So this is nothing new, nothing special. You just got to figure out ways to put twists on it so people don't see it coming, right?
Right.
So when I get out there, I'm cheering on Vic. I'm doing everything I can to help him. He's down on the ground. He's calling for the door. Sorry. I reach in and like grab his hand. I'm like, grab my hand, man. I'll pull you out. And I start pulling him out towards the door. And as I pull him out, I slam the friggin' door right in his face.
Hey, there you go. That's a
Why
turn
not?
right there. And
Yeah.
and you probably got quick heat for it too.
Oh man, yeah, immediate. And I was way over earlier in the show, you know, big, just regular plain no baby face, you know, white meat baby face coming out there, trying to as much as I can be a white meat baby face, right? So, you know, I come out there, I'm doing that stuff, but I think the biggest thing was just, again, it's the time. Like if you rush the spot, then you just run out there, you do it, you slam the cage. It doesn't get the same effect. It's all, everything has to be on that beat. And you got to, again, create that moment where as I'm literally dragging him out of the ring, you know, people are saying, oh, yeah, he's really helping him, because I was really helping him. And then as he got
like you said earlier, when you slam the gate, it wasn't probably slam the gate and yell a bunch of things. You probably slammed the gate and kind of did the heel pose where you're kind of, you know, like you said, soaking it in, and you just kind of, you know, look what I did. Okay. And the crowd's just booing you and you know, traitor and probably calling you all kinds of things that I can't say on the air.
but you've gotta be willing to take that time. And I'm being able to trying to transition more into acting now, this time part of my career, and every wrestler in the world is trying to do this right now, but it's really a good time for wrestlers to get into it. I was in my first feature film last year that came out. It's currently it's called Heaven. It's by Indie Rights, written by Robbie Wrights, but you can find that on YouTube. You can find it on Tubi. It's also on Amazon Prime. You could rent it for like $2, but
I'm definitely gonna look for it right after the show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'll send you a link to it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I just literally right before we talked, I can't really show too much, but I just picked up a script for the next film in that series that we're doing. So like my goal is to transition into acting, something that I don't hurt from every day, basically.
Right. And if you get good enough, they have other people who get hurt for you.
Yes. And that's always the goal. Anytime I can get somebody else hurt instead of me, perfect.
There you go.
That's why I like tag team wrestling sometimes, especially with younger guys that I can talk into going in there and doing crazy stuff.
Yeah. I could see you in the back. Hey, kid, I'm getting the hot tag.
Oh, yeah. Man,
you ain't getting the hot tag. Don't even think about it.
So I used to do this thing with Jimmy, where the guys would come up and they'd start talking about the match and everything else. And you always got one guy in a tag team that's just a little bit out there, the Rob Killjoy of the team.
Right. Good analogy.
Yeah, I love Rob, man. He's so good.
Oh, I do too.
But he comes up with crazy stuff. Anyway, so I always look at that guy, and as I looked at Rob at the time, and I was like, "Oh, good, you and Jimmy can do all that. That sounds great. Y'all have fun. I'm gonna work with Lance.
Knock yourself out. I'll be over here in the corner with my rope in my hand when you want me."
just tag me in when it's time. Yeah, I'll be over here with Lance. We'll do our stuff, and we'll be fine.
I know.
Um,
But Rob Killjoy, now you mentioned that name. Now, this guy, again, great wrestler. I mean, I can't say enough about Rob Killjoy. He wrestles all over North Carolina in our area too. And yeah, he's one of the guys that when he comes in the locker room, he goes up to you and he starts asking you a question. Your first thing out of your mouth better be no, or you're gonna do something very crazy.
I honestly, I love working with Rob. Rob is probably one of the most underrated talents that I've ever met.
Oh yeah.
The guy really needs to be on television somewhere. He got to.
I agree.
But I met Rob years and years ago, and we've worked a ton of times. I love working him because I don't have to call shit. Excuse me, I don't have to do anything.
No,
It's a night off because you just go in there. Rob knows exactly what we need to do during the match. He already knows exactly what you do most times. He's figured out the whole idea, and you just kind of run with it and throw in your little tips here and there, your stuff. But
Right.
honestly, I love working guys like him. They're super easy.
Right.
And Rob knows, he understands pacing. He understands, it's just an incredible talent, man. I really can't.
He does. He knows all that. But I'm telling you, if you don't say no to
He's
Rob,
nuts.
you will be the one hanging up on 3 tables, and he'll be jumping off the top of the building to go. I'm telling you.
Yes.
And it's a good thing for us fans. Don't get me wrong. The fans love it, but I mean, I've heard some wrestlers that say they won't even touch him as far as wrestling because they know how crazy he can get.
Oh
But
man.
if you don't wrestle him, you're missing out. I'm just saying. If you don't,
They're missing out.
You're missing out. Yeah.
You need to take as many opportunities to be in the ring with guys like that as possible. If you're a young wrestler and you want to really learn, if you need to find guys that are ring generals, and there are not a lot of them in the world. There's a few. Ethan Case is the ring general. Guys like Rob Killjoy, you know what I mean? George South, obviously. The Dawsons, obviously.
Right.
Guys like that. Those are ring generals. The Caprice Colemans of the world. They really know their craft. If you have an opportunity to get in the ring with anybody, sorry, my wife's cooking. She's asking me questions about dinner.
You're good, man.
So, like, if you can get in the ring with anybody like that, when I said earlier, I wasn't very good until I was like 7, 8 years in, right? And even at that time, I wasn't very good then. I got into a seminar with Simon D, right?
Okay.
And working with him, and he was awesome. And he was the guy that taught me how to tighten up without killing people, which I wasn't very good at for a while. I would just knock people's heads off. So I had to adjust. But getting there with him,
you were stiff in the true meaning.
Yes. And a lot of people think I still am, and I am. So just.
But hey, but you put realism. I call it putting realism into wrestling. I mean, I would rather see you hit somebody and accidentally hit them too hard because they can get over it. I mean, most guys are built, to wrestle.
Sure.
But I would rather that than see you miss the punch by 6 inches and it looks,
yeah, and
just like that.
It.
Yeah,
it looks terrible. Terrible. I'm very much about, like, all I've got really, again, because I'm not young, I'm not a good looking guy, I'm not a pretty guy, you know what I mean? I'm a brute in all facets of the word. When I'm in the ring, I beat people up, and that's what I'm good at. So if it weren't for intensity and realism, I would never get booked.
Now, how did you get the nickname or the name, The Brute? Because one of the first things I noticed, which caught my eye to want to put you on my show, was I'm looking through Facebook, and the first thing I noticed is you have a promo pic of you with your arm like this, and you got Brute tattooed on your arm. And I was like, that guy I want to have on my show. If he's got the name Brute, it's tattooed on his arm, this man, he's going to talk. He's going to talk, and say, and of course, the second I put your, advertisement out, you're like, yeah, come and watch, because I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And I love that.
Oh yeah. I don't care. Because I have no masters in this business. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I've got nobody. I'm not trying to kiss anybody's ass. I'm not trying to go anywhere. I'm not trying to get. Yeah, man. It's one of those, like, you end up in tryouts and you end up in really cool situations where you have opportunities to go places and be in front of people. Like I've worked in front of Johnny Ace. I've worked in front of Simon Dean when he was talent relations. I've worked in front of Tommy Dreamer. You know, those guys. But like, you never like. Again, I was a family first guy. Right. I always thought about what I had to do here. And if I go somewhere and I break my neck, then I can't take care of my family.
Can't provide for your family. Right.
Yeah. So I've got to be smart and
until they put life insurance or insurance in wrestling, which is probably never going to happen. Yeah. You got to think of your family first.
Sure. And I'm not saying that those guys aren't thinking of their families that are up there, because obviously they make the money, and that's the normal response. Well, if you get up there, then you're going to make enough money. You can do all this. Not exactly, guys. And it doesn't last forever either. You have a downside guarantee. If you get hurt that first year that you're there, your contract runs out. That downside guarantee is gone. You're done. Right. Now you got to figure out how to live your life with a broken neck, or be like a Draws or something like that, and get lucky enough that Vince is going to take care of you the rest of your life. But it doesn't work that way most times.
And truth be told, if you get up there and you make the real money in professional wrestling, to come back, even and I'll tell you, a lot of these stars will tell you the same thing if you really get them and get them to be honest with you. A lot of these superstars that are would rather have the contracts up there at AEW and WWE than to come back and do what they're doing. I mean, sure, they're getting $5, $6, $7, maybe $1,000 a pop, but it's nothing like the money they were making up there when they had a contract. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, of course. Like you're making great money when you're up there. And you can make good money on the indies. Obviously you can make a living doing this stuff. You know, if you really applied yourself. And there was a time,
and that's the problem, and we could talk about that for a whole nother hour. That's the problem with a lot of the wrestlers today, and I'll say it as a fan, and they can get mad at me if they want. A lot of them don't want to go that extra mile, don't want to put money into merch, don't want to, do promos for organizations, don't want to, put themselves out there. And I understand, like you said, you got a shoot job, you got to take care of your family, you got things at home. But it only takes a few minutes. I mean, today, a lot of people don't make big production promos. They just, find a wall somewhere and do a promo. You know what I'm saying? And if you're good enough, you're going to get the fans interested. You know what I'm saying? Do something. That, as a fan, I'm begging that all the time. That's my big punchline down there. Give me something to invest in. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
That's going to keep me coming back to watching you. That's going to make me buy your merch. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So, and I was one of those guys, though. You know what I mean? I was one of those guys that wasn't applying myself because I wasn't worried about it. I made plenty of money. Like money wasn't the concern. I didn't do that for this. Hey Luke, how's it going, man?
Alice, I agree totally. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, my goal in wrestling was to wrestle. I just wanted to go out and wrestle. I was having fun because, again, I was meeting everybody I wanted to meet. I was working with all those guys, all the guys that are up in WWE right now that come from this area. I work with all those guys. Right. I started working with Cameron Grimes when he was 15. He was working. We had him as the Little Dragon out at Power Pro Wrestling. He was wearing a mask. Right. And then he went to CWF and he started doing his own thing with his own gimmick and Trevor Lee and all that. And he was incredible. But Cedric Alexander, worked with him. He was like 3 months into the business, before he even went to the Ring of Honor. Griff Garrison, he's up in AEW now. His third match in the business was against him. So No Way Jose, I dropped him his first championship at CWF Mid-Atlantic.
I love that guy, man.
He's a great dude. And I dropped him his first strap, and he didn't even know it was happening. Like we just worked him. He rolled me up, and I hooked him so he couldn't let go. And it's funny, the tattoo that you're talking
you
about.
Can get an apple over. I'm just saying.
What's that?
It's funny how you could get an apple over. I mean, I'm just saying.
If you do it the right way, it's going to happen. So the tattoo that you're talking about, right? So
yes, that one right there. Yes, sir.
This is the reason why I dropped him that title, as a matter of fact. So the story behind this is I was booked with CWF Mid-Atlantic, and I was also booked with Big Time Wrestling out in Knoxville with Stephen Fry, and it was the same day. But I had a friend of mine who was just learning how to tattoo, and she was apprenticing in Burlington at a shop, and she needed some ink or like some canvas. So I was like, yeah, I'll come by. And we figured out something easy for her to do. It's just font and lettering. It's not a great tattoo.
Right.
It's cool.
Dude,
but,
it's bold. I like it. I don't care. I like it. I personally thought it was awesome. I was like, man,
it marries you to the damn gimmick, though. I promise.
It pops. I'm just gonna say that for as simple as it is, it pops off your arm, especially in your promo pics and that, man. It just pops.
Nice. Thank you. So like, I took the time, and I thought it was gonna be quick. It wasn't a big tattoo. I didn't think it was going to take very long. It's all black. Like, you're just laying black. It wasn't going to do that. But she's learning. So it took forever to get this tattoo done. And then on the other hand, why the hell I booked the tattoo appointment the same day I had two shows.
To go
to.
You were doing double duty and getting a big tat on your arm. Oh no.
Yeah, all the same day.
There's a story there, boy.
Dude, every bump you take, I'm hitting that arm. I didn't think about that at the time. I thought about it the first bump that I took.
You didn't even have to, you can't keep that covered either. Did you have it covered?
No, man, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like I took actually I did when I went into the match, I taped it up. I just did like a longer tape thing on my arm, like went up further on it.
You did like an armband?
Yeah, basically. So I did that on it. There's actually there's a match.
The half Jeff Hardy thing.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. There's a match, the Brutes versus the Mid-Atlantic Outlaws. It's a match that was in Knoxville, North Carolina, and you'll see I had like blue tape that went up like half my arm or something like that, or like went up a little. No, maybe I did have it open because I was showing it off during the match like a dumbass. Yeah, I was. Yeah, because I wanted to have it so I could pose with it and all that. Yeah, I was an idiot. I had it wide open. So like first day of the tattoo, wide open. My tattoo artist like later on yelled at me so many times. My wife yelled at me about it too. Because I'm an idiot and went out there and do that. It's not a good idea, kids. Don't get a tattoo and then go out and wrestle the same day or that week. It's an open wound. That's not healthy. But anyway,
I got the match. I'm trying to catch you in the ring where you can see the tat.
the Mid-Atlantic Outlaws and us. Yeah, I think you can see.
It was 8 years ago.
It
was 8 years ago.
God. Was it that long? But anyway, because I got this tattoo, I won the CWF Mid-Atlantic Television title the show before that, where we did this angle. It was a whole year-long angle that we did. That I I needed to take some time off. My son was about to be born, and you can find this on YouTube too, all this old stuff with CWF. But my son was about to be born, so we did an angle with me and Brad Stuss talked about it, and we did a thing that if I didn't win a championship by the end of that year, then I was gone from CWF Mid-Atlantic, right? Well, normally, if you do a spot like that, what happens?
Ask the question again. I'm sorry. I was looking for your ask the question.
Sorry. So you're good. You got we did an angle that I did like kind of a loser leaves town type thing.
Okay.
But it was if I didn't win a championship in CWF Mid-Atlantic by the end of that year, I was done. I was leaving CWF, wasn't going to be back. I didn't feel like I earned my spot there. Okay. Right. And typically you do an angle like that. It's a build up for a guy to get a big title. Right. And at the end of that year, you're working and working and working. And at the end of that time, that guy gets the strap. Well, I don't like doing the normal stuff. So I told Brad that we could build all of it and get to that point and everything else, but I want to take some time away.
Okay.
Because my son was going to be born and all that stuff, I needed to be home for that anyway. It wasn't a big thing. So I just took time off wrestling and kind of got my stuff straight here and made sure my family was good to go. And then after my son was born, a couple weeks later, I would come back and everything was fine. But we did the angle where I was gone from CWF. I didn't want to win.
Right.
Because I know everybody always expects that shit. And I hate that. You know, like you always, oh, he's gonna get the title, especially if it's like December and you're in a title match. Like, of course, that's what everybody expects.
Yeah,
But then you lose.
Oh man, see that's what I like. I like the swerve. The swerve is cool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you swerve people, because like you said, a lot of times, you know, sometimes you have they do that with the little guy and the giant. You know, the little guy, you know, going after the giant, or vice versa, and the little guy's losing. You know, the Rey Mysterio type matches. You know,
Yeah.
and then when they hits the WrestleMania or their big show, you know, they come out and you know, you're expecting the little guy to win, and like you said, throw a swerve, make him lose again, bam, even harder, even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you need that. You know, sometimes that has to happen. You
and the heat that big brute gets, excuse the pun, but the heat that the big brute gets, you know, it puts him over even more because people hate him more.
You just got to figure out that thing that's going to catch people off guard, you know, because again, that's going to make them remember it. It's not what they expected. They're going to remember it, and they're either going to like it or hate it.
Right. And that's storylines that, you know, it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're at a big show like WWE or your local indies. If you put a story together, you know, swerve or no swerve, that, you know, and the wrestlers are doing good wrestling and telling stories, you know, while the story's going on, they're going to, I've got certain matches that I'll never forget. I'll never forget as long as I live, you know, some of these matches, and the wrestlers are all friends of mine to this day because I watch every one of them, you know, no matter where they go, because to me, they tell great stories in the ring. And that's what I love, is to watch, you know, two people get in there. It's okay to have a, you know, a spot match here and there, you know, you're gonna have them. That's cool, you know. It gets a crowd popping and get, especially if you have it right off the bat at a show. You know, you get two cruiserweights in there just flying around. It gets, you know, it gets the crowd energized, but not for a whole show. You know, tell stories.
Shows are like a roller coaster,
right? You want to have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and you can't go. You know, you can't just go straight up. You've got to have that palate cleanser sometimes, especially before like a main event. If you had a crazy 6-man, you know, sequence, whatever thing, that everybody calls it. So you got to have a palate cleanser, and that's why everybody always looks at WWE as weird. You know, when they do these big pay-per-views and they have this insane like TLC match, and then they have some crazy spot with Floyd Mayweather and Big Show, and then the main event. Right. And they're like, well, what the hell is that? You know, that's not the semi. No, it's not the semi. That's the palate cleanser. So you can forget about this crazy, insane spot fest that just happened, and we can bring you back to wrestling.
Exactly.
You know, so there's got to be a roller coaster on a show, and there's got to be a little bit of everything. There's a time and place for all that cruiserweight stuff. You know what I mean? I'm definitely not one of the old school guys that hates all these young guys and their style or anything like that. I think it's incredible. Guys like Malachi Jeffers and Jackson Drake, and guys like that are just incredible to watch now. Right. And again, those two guys, you've known them since they were 13, 14 years old. Right. You know, and now they're 18, 19, and they're killing it in the business. You know, definitely the next generation. So guys like Alexander Moss coming out of the Firestar, outstanding wrestler. And he's an old school feel guy. He's a very moment making guy. You know, Tim, I've already talked about. Guys like Bojack is incredible. BK Westbrook, the guy that I sent you a link for the video with. Right. He's incredibly talented.
We talk so much and so well, I'm not even going to show the video.
No, it's cool, man. No worries. But the women in the area too, like women's wrestling right now is such a huge uptick with you know, Amira at Firestar and God, Ella Envy is killing it right now with all the stuff she's doing with the NWA. You know, Brittany Jade is out there. She's all over the place into AEW dark matches. Like it's so cool to see all these younger kids that are just taking advantage of every opportunity they have,
Right.
really taking this serious, and they have the support now, which is something we never had back in the day.
Right.
They support, the system is there for these people to succeed, and they're doing it together. Like the referees are together. They've got their little groups. If one of them's booked and they know about a booking, they're like, hey, this is open, hit this promoter up. People are helping each other find bookings. This never happened when I got into business.
Right.
What I got told my first day here, wrestling's dog eat dog business, plain and simple. You
Right.
either go out there and find it and go get it, or you're gonna get ate the hell up and you ain't gonna
Right.
get shit.
Right.
And that's how the business was when I got into it.
Well, it still is kind of, but you do have the clicks, like you said. There are the clicks out there, and it's a good thing. It could be a good thing, and sometimes it could be a bad thing because
Sure.
you have the same clicks wrestling at the same places, and it's the same matches over and over again. And that again, that's another whole hour show. But
Yeah.
but it's cool when, like you said, if somebody gets injured or something like that, hey, go up and tell the promoter, hey, I've got 3 guys on speed dial who could take my place. Same great wrestling, same, all you got to do is, put them where I'm at, and
Mhm.
everything works. And it's cool that wrestlers do that nowadays. And like you said, referees, announcers, all of it. And it's great to see that.
Well, Scott, you gotta understand, as a fan in this area, or as a fan of the independents, you're obviously, there are guys that are just going to be in that area, and you're going to see them over and over and over and over.
Right.
And it's going to be ad nauseum. There's going to be some that are really good together, and there are going to be some that are horrible, or you're just sick of seeing all the time. But that's wrestling.
Right.
On this level with the independents, the way they are, and like our goal is to get these kids to another level. Okay. So let's put it in a different perspective. Okay. We can talk about local independence all we want to, but I want to put it into a larger scale so you can understand the difference in the situation. Okay. Ring of Honor, when it first started, was based mostly out of Pennsylvania. Okay. They ran basically the same couple towns all the time and used the same talent in all those towns all the time. They a great amount of talent, and a lot of them weren't local, so that helped out a lot. They were bringing in guys from all over the place, but it was still the same groups of people. And I know this because I've been watching Ring of Honor literally since the first show I could ever find it, back forever ago, when I first started. So, but a lot of people didn't have that same thought process. It's the same guys and the same groups, and the cliques, and you just see them wrestle each other, and it's always the same stuff. Those are the ones that they're going to fall off. Those people that just do the same thing over and over and over again, they're going to fall off. But those are also guys like Ricochet and Will Ospreay, and that's how they started.
Yeah.
And they got so good at doing that stuff
Ricochet,
that they were able to
was out of
expand
New
it.
York, wasn't he? I believe he was up there in New York when he started.
Yeah. And then I think he was
the organization
in Georgia
but,
for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But again, those guys, they learn together like that. But you have the ability as an independent fan here locally to see every one of those guys get better, or
Right.
every one of those gals get better, and you can
Right.
see them. You can be that fan that has the ability to say, I was there the night that I saw it click in their head. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When somebody like Cedric Alexander, who started here, and worked around in Burlington a lot, worked around with PWX a lot before he got signed with Ring of Honor and before he went up to
Right.
WWE.
Right.
You can be that guy that watched his career, that watched him wrestle a lot of the same people over and over and over again.
Right.
But then that one day when he figured it out and his whole match changed, that one time that you saw that wrestler and they wrestled that same guy they've been working, but they finally
Right.
got it.
Right.
And now that 100 set, it like a comic, like a musician,
Right.
you know what I mean? The
I
more
sort
you
of
practice it, the
have
better
a
it gets.
story like that. I wasn't in his area, but I watched a lot of his YouTube wrestling matches. I watched, anything that came out of Powerhouse Hobbs for AEW. I watched it and I got to interview him. I finally got a hold of him and said, "Hey, man, I would love to do it." And this is like 3 months, I think, before he got the opportunity to go to AEW Dark, and then it just skyrocketed from there. But yeah, you're right, and that's my go-to every time somebody asks me, who's the biggest guy you've seen go from indies up to it's Powerhouse Hobbs.
Nice.
He's one of them guys. It's like, man, it was amazing, and now to see him, it's like you watch one of those old videos and then watch a wrestling match now, and it's leaps and bounds. Like you said, don't watch my old stuff. I was crappy back then, but
Well, I'm just at a different place in my wrestling right now, and
Right.
I'm not at a place that I'm trying to go anywhere. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like I'm 43. Nobody's hiring me.
Now,
So
Jonathan said something that along the lines of what you said. He said the businesses seem to change even during my tenure. The new mentality is to help each other. A rising tide raises all ships.
It's true, man. It's awesome. I love it. There's such a positive environment in the wrestling scene now, in the right places. Obviously, there's the negatives and there's cancers in the business and stuff everywhere. But like really with a lot of these young guys, and I've found it because I've been as little as I have been, but I've been helping out a little bit at Firestar Pro Wrestling up here in Greensboro at the training school and during their shows and things like that. And you see how these kids are literally coming up together and helping each other throughout everything in business. And like, I never had that support system. It was, hey, you're trained, get out there and be somebody, kid.
And you see that in WWE too. I mean, look at all these guys that came from Florida Championship Wrestling that went to NXT together, men and women, and now they're all up in WWE wrestling together. The Four Horsewomen, they all came through the same wrestling places, and maybe not the same exact, but you know what I mean. They all met up, and went up together, and that's a cool thing, man. It's a cool thing to watch.
Yeah, and the same with everybody over in AEW. Like most of those guys have been wrestling together for 10, 15 years, But places like that, Ring of Honor, when they first came out, and you'll notice it with places like PWX when they were around, and I'm sure your local promotions, like whichever ones you go to.
PWX, man, Brian Branikowski is amazing. I've had conversations with him. We've fallen off. I haven't talked to him in probably almost a year, but there was a point at one time where he was teaching me everything about the business. I mean, he was coming on my show here and doing some interviews and things like that, and telling some of these. He was actually teaching promoters how to promote on my show at one time. I mean, he was awesome. I would love. I'm gonna have to write his name down. I'm gonna have to catch up with him and see what he's doing, man. I ain't heard from him in a long time.
Brian's working with New Japan, doing stuff with them, and he's helping them out a lot. He's doing really well. I talked to him recently. I don't know how recent, but
next time you talk to him, tell him #True said hi. He'll know who I am.
Yeah, definitely. I'll do that.
I have his phone number. I just don't want to call it. I just don't feel right to call him, out of the blue without him knowing. So
yeah, a text goes a long way. Hey, Brian, just checking in. I'm sure
I might do that without a doubt. Well, man, we've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Usually I do about an hour. So I'll tell you what, Mark, you've been so great, and I know you've got a lot more to talk about. I'd like to have you back on in a couple of weeks. Would you do that?
Yeah. We'll get together, figure out a time. That'd be great.
I would love to do that, man, because I know you got a lot more to talk about, and I know we could get in depth into wrestling, man. We could, I know the fourth wall, a lot of people don't want to get behind it, but sure. I love talking that stuff like we were talking about, people working together and everything. That's my kind of thing on #True. So, and I know your wife's in there cooking, and you should be helping her because you keep looking over, and I'm like, any minute now she's going to grab you and jerk you up.
Oh, no, it's all done. I usually cook. I usually cook most of the time in the house, but she's doing it tonight since I had a ton of things to do. Like I said, pick up a script.
Oh man, that's awesome! I love to hear that. Well, I'm going to let you go so you can go and cook with the wife or eat with the wife. Sorry, it's already done.
Thanks, guys.
But before we go, I'm going to go ahead and do your promos real quick. You're going to be at New Era tomorrow night. You're going to be defending your Extreme Shock Wrestling Championship against Lee Valiant. at New Era. Don't miss that, guys. He's also going to be at Firestar Pro Wrestling, Gate City Battle in a tag team. You don't want to miss that. That's coming up February the 11th. And he's also going to be on March 4th at XCW, Excalibur Championship Wrestling at Crash Force. That's going to be in Stanley.
I'm wrestling Aaron Biggs for hi.
That was my daughter.
I'm wrestling Aaron Biggs for their heavyweight championship. On the 4th. So
very good. So you're going for the XCW championship. I love it.
Yep. Yeah.
I love it.
I appreciate you having me on, Scott. Anybody, if you want to find me at Real Mark James on pretty much everything. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. All that stuff.
You can't miss them. Brute.
Yeah, real easy to find. And but Scott, I appreciate you having me on, and it's been great to talk to you. I look forward to coming back sometime.
Without a doubt, man. You guys go check out Mark James, the Brute, at all these local wrestling shows. He's behind the scenes. He does 10 different jobs. You never know what you might find him doing. He might even be bringing a restaurant in. He helps run those too, so you never know. But without a doubt, we'll see you guys Monday as we're going to be talking to Peterbilt, and that is the hashtag truth. We'll see you guys Monday night, and thank you very much, the Brute. Appreciate it, man.